Hi, Cathy. Malika Andrews, ESPN. I just wanted to get some clarity on some of the specifics that Napheesa Collier said about your conversation that you had that was previously private. Did you in fact say that, quote, players should be on their knees thanking their lucky stars for the rights deal that I got them?
There's a lot of...
Could the Indiana Fever, a team that many thought was poised for greatness, be crumbling from the inside out? Get ready for an announcement that has shocked the WNBA and rocked the whole basketball world. The Indiana Fever were the talk of the league just 6 months ago. Gainbridge Fieldhouse was crowded with spectators. The future appeared more promising than it had in years, and merchandise was flying off the shelves. At last, the group had established itself. Or so everyone believed. However, beneath the surface, tensions were rising, cracks were appearing, and a storm was building that would soon burst into the open. It had been a truly miraculous turnaround. A squad that had endured years of hardship and played to small audiences in a city that seemed to have forgotten about its WNBA team found itself at the epicenter of a basketball rebirth. It was electric energy. It was contagious optimism. People proudly sported Fever shirts every place you looked. The squad received unprecedented support from local companies. Restaurants developed meal items with a Fever theme. Bars promoted specials for game day. The squad was suddenly featured on the main page of the sports section many times a week in the Indianapolis Star, which had previously limited its coverage to sporadic back-page references. Longtime season ticket holder Patricia Anderson remarked, "It felt like 2012 all over again," referring to the year the Fever won their lone WNBA title. It felt even better than that, in fact. There was an amazing buzz. My grandchildren were requesting to attend games. The Fever was a topic of conversation among co-workers. It fulfilled all of our expectations. Enrollment in Indiana's youth basketball leagues surged. Young ladies who had never given basketball much thought now wanted to play. Coaches claimed that their players were studying the game with an intensity they had never seen before, imitating plays, and attempting hallmark techniques they had seen in Fever games. There had a significant economic impact. According to local economics, Fever home games were bringing in millions of dollars. On game nights, hotels close to the arena were completely occupied. Parking lots have higher fees. The downtown Indianapolis economy was affected, but as many others have discovered, prosperity can be brittle. And issues were simmering inside the Fever's practice facility. In retrospect, there were signs, but they were faint and easily overlooked. The kind of small disagreement that occurs in every competitive setting. During practice, a player is sitting by himself on the bench. During a timeout, a coach made an angry gesture. A mysterious post on social media that might have any meaning. Jessica Wallace, a seasoned WNBA reporter, wrote a piece headlined "Growing Pains: The Fever's Unexpected Challenges at the Beginning of March." It received little attention at the time. The title appeared to be standard sports journalism, inventing drama for clicks by identifying issues where none seemed to exist. Wallace, however, had detected something. She had seen body language during media-accessible practices. At team meals, she had seen which players were seated together and which were not. She had monitored social media exchanges, observing who was enjoying the posts of others and who had completely ceased participating. Wallace later clarified there was a disconnect during a podcast interview. Something felt off, but I couldn't pinpoint it precisely. The breezes were present, but not everyone felt delight. Her worries were ignored by other reporters. The Fever was on the rise. There was an increase in attendance. What more is there to ask for? In the field of professional dysfunction in athletics is frequently concealed by achievement. At least temporarily, teams with serious internal issues can nonetheless prevail in games. Chemistry problems are similar to carbon monoxide poisoning, according to former NBA coach Jeff Van Gundy. You don't realize you have an issue until it's too late. For the Indiana Fever, his words turned out to be prescient. Assistant coaches, equipment managers, front desk employees, and team insiders had observed tensions but thought they were typical. There are players on every squad who don't get along well. Later, an unnamed employee said, "We thought everything would work itself out. We reasoned that any rough edges would be smoothed over by victory." That presumption would turn out to be disastrously incorrect. Everyone was stunned by Commissioner Cathy Engelbert's unusual statement, which came as a lightning bolt. Engelbert announced that 3 key players are apparently leaving the Indiana Fever in a move that nobody anticipated, causing immediate surprise and indignation. This goes beyond simply changing the roster. The league's entire terrain is altered by this seismic catastrophe. There was hardly 4 hours' notice before the news conference was set. The reporters hurried to change their schedules. Camera workers hurried to set up their gear. There was a lot of conjecture on social media over what may justify such urgency. At precisely 2 Potters, Engelbert came into the room. Eastern Time. Her movements were methodical, her expression solemn. She had a bottle of water and 1 sheet of paper. There were none of the customary greetings. Warm-up statements and short conversation were absent. She moved to the podium and started right away. "Thank you for joining us on short notice," Engelbert said in a calm although worried tone. Being a league where players have agency and voice has long been a source of pride for the WNBA. Today, we recognize a scenario that illustrates the potential and difficulties associated with player empowerment. Reporters leaned forward, cameras focused, and the room tensed. She went on, "The league is aware of significant roster changes with the Indiana Fever. 3 athletes have stated that they plan to leave the team. We acknowledge the impact this has on the team, the fans, and the league as a whole, even as we support player choices and their freedom to pursue the greatest opportunities for their careers." She stopped and drank some water. The room was completely silent. To guarantee a seamless transition, the WNBA will collaborate closely with all stakeholders. "We are dedicated to helping the Indiana Fever organization get throughout this difficult time, and we are equally dedicated to making sure that these departing players find opportunities to succeed." Immediately, people started asking questions. With desperation in their voices, reporters yelled over one another. The 3 players were who? What were the causes? Was this a coaching issue or a compensation issue? Had any league rules been broken by the team? Engelbert raised a hand. "At this point, I am unable to comment on particular player circumstances. The players will have the chance to express their opinions when and if they so want, and the Fever organization will soon release a statement." More inquiries, now louder and more pressing. Raising her voice a little to be heard over the noise, Engelbert remarked, "What I can tell you is that this situation did not arise from any single incident. It represents, as far as we can tell, a build-up of worries over time. The league takes these circumstances seriously, and in order to better assist players and teams in preventing such incidents in the future, we will be reviewing our procedures." Only 12 minutes were spent on the news conference. After taking 5 questions and failing to provide satisfactory answers, Engelbert departed the room to a chorus of unanswered follow-up questions. The news went viral on all major sports platforms in a matter of minutes. Millions of phones received a notice from ESPN. Hot takes, speculations, and reactions erupted on Twitter, which is now X. In order to address the breaking news, sports talk radio stations paused their programs. The first response was incredulity. Many believed that there had been a misinterpretation or misunderstanding. "This can't be true, surely. A team that had just undergone such a spectacular comeback couldn't possibly be losing 3 players." But reality sank in as the minutes stretched into hours and additional information started to surface from different sources. This was taking place. This was actual. The WNBA's feel-good story of the season, the Indiana Fever, was collapsing catastrophically. The markets for sports betting responded right away. The Fever's chances of winning the title, which had been favorable only hours before, drastically decreased. The odds of different individuals taking home individual trophies changed significantly. The sports gambling industry was affected financially. Outside Gainbridge Fieldhouse, fans started to congregate. Some wanted additional details, while others just wanted to be close to the location that had made them so happy only weeks before. TV crews flocked to the arena and conducted spontaneous interviews with astonished fans who found it difficult to express their emotions. One fan added, "I don't understand," with tears in her eyes. "We were excellent. At last, we were doing well. How does this occur?" Another fan, clutching a basketball and sporting a Fever jersey, stood calmly at the arena entrance, seemingly waiting for someone to come out and inform him that everything had been a grave error. For a moment, the sports world, which is famed for its quick reflexes and heated views, was at a loss for words. This story did not lend itself to simple narratives. This has nothing to do with a botched contract negotiation or a disgruntled superstar requesting a transfer. This was something more profound, more intricate, and far more concerning. The startling reality of Sophie Cunningham's departure came first. Even though she wasn't technically on the Fever, her intense competition would be devastating if she were to leave any squad she was involved with. No one could have imagined such a decisive breakup, especially from a team on the verge of a breakthrough, but rumors had been circulating for weeks about deepening tensions behind closed doors. Grit, tenacity, and an unyielding will to succeed have been the cornerstones of Sophie Cunningham's career. She is the kind of player who, at 61, makes winning plays that don't appear in the box score. The diving save that maintains possession. The screen that allows a teammate to take an open shot. The defensive rotation that stops a simple basket. Her path to becoming a professional basketball player was not assured. Cunningham was not a particularly sought-after high school athlete while growing up in Columbia, Missouri. As a three-star recruit, she was viewed by coaches at the University of Missouri as a reliable contributor rather than a standout. She disproved them. Cunningham had developed into one of the most complete players in the SEC by her final year at Missouri. She scored 18.4 points per game on average, pulled down 7.0 rebounds, and gained recognition for her clutch efforts in crucial games. Cunningham was unavoidably at the center of Missouri's shocks of highly regarded teams. In the second round of the 2019 WNBA draft, she was chosen by the Phoenix Mercury. Once more, the expectations were low. Second-round selections frequently have difficulty making rosters, let alone making significant contributions. As usual, Cunningham went above and above. She gained notoriety in Phoenix for her tenacity, her readiness to protect the best player on the other team, and her capacity to make big shots when it mattered most. Her ferocity was adored by her fans. Her hard ethic was admired by her teammates. In stressful circumstances, coaches trusted her. Basketball experts were therefore shocked when suspicions started to circulate that Cunningham might be involved in the Fever's debacle. This player didn't give up on teams. This person didn't back down from a challenge. If Cunningham was departing, there was a serious problem. According to people familiar with the matter, Cunningham had grown more and more dissatisfied with the team's course, especially with regard to the distribution of playing time and offensive tactics. Speaking anonymously, a number of teammates attested to the fact that Cunningham had expressed concerns during team meetings, in private talks with coaches, and ultimately in more direct encounters with front desk staff. One teammate, who wished to remain unnamed, described her as a warrior. However, even warriors must be heard and respected. There were discussions that ought to have taken place but didn't. Concepts that ought to have been taken into account were rejected. Issues that ought to have been handled were disregarded. The mid-season review sessions are said to be when the breakdown started. Typical protocols in professional sports when coaches and players talk about expectations and performance duties. These gatherings are usually productive and provide a private atmosphere for open communication. However, reports claim that Cunningham's mid-season meeting was a failure. She had prepared thorough observations regarding attacking settings that did not maximize player strengths, defensive strategies that opponents were exploiting, and replacement patterns that appeared out of step with the flow of the game. According to accounts, her suggestions were not warmly welcomed. According to reports, coaches got defensive and saw her remarks as criticism rather than helpful comments. Instead of being cooperative, the discussion turned hostile. What was supposed to be a conversation turned into a lecture. Sophie didn't make any demands as she entered. According to one source, she arrived with data, film analysis, and sincere observations. Her goal was to assist the squad in winning. However, rather than discussing her suggestions, the answer was essentially, "Thanks, but we're the coaches and we'll decide strategy." A veteran who is attempting to make a contribution should not be treated that way. From then on, things became worse. Unpredictably, Cunningham's playing time started to change. She spent a lot of time on the bench during games where her defensive abilities were obviously needed. The playbook abruptly removed offensive possessions that appeared to be tailored to her skill set. These modifications may have appeared to outside observers to be typical coaching improvements. However, a trend became apparent to individuals within the company. Cunningham's voice was being suppressed, her power was waning, and she was being marginalized. According to another report, it was initially mild but eventually became apparent. This was a form of reprisal for speaking up. This was the penalty for defying authority. Furthermore, Sophie, being Sophie, would not put up with it. There is more to her departure than just the loss of a gifted guard. It's the absence of a leader. A strong voice in the locker room that encouraged everyone to improve and held teammates accountable. Players like Cunningham are essential to teams. Players who take the risk of being disliked in order to make progress and who are concerned enough to voice difficult realities. Losing that kind of talent frequently has repercussions. Other players notice when the warrior departs. They wonder if they will be the next. They begin to wonder if it is worth the risk to speak up. Teams that lose integrity seldom win titles, and the locker room becomes quieter, more circumspect, and less honest. Then came the shocking revelation that nobody really thought was conceivable. The player who brought unparalleled attention to the Fever and reinvigorated the league, Caitlyn Clark, is reportedly out. A heated debate has been triggered by the revelation, with many wondering how such a significant departure could occur so soon after her well-received entrance. What Caitlyn Clark meant to the Indiana Fever and the WNBA as a whole should be made very clear. Her arrival was truly revolutionary. Not only did attendance rise, but at certain locations it doubled and then tripled. Not only did television ratings rise, they broke all previous records. Not only did young girls in America have a new basketball idol, but they also had a transcendent talent who played the game in a way they had never seen before. Clark's path to becoming a professional basketball player was well chronicled. Her time in college at Iowa was legendary. She led all Division I women's basketball players in points scored. Her long three-pointers went viral. Millions of people saw her no-look passes on social media. Every place she performed, she sold out venues, transforming ordinary conference games into spectacular events. There was unheard-of pre-draft excitement. Experts likened her to Steve Nash for her court vision, Stephen Curry for her range, and Pete Maravich for her inventiveness. Before you actually saw her perform, some of the analogies seemed exaggerated. After that, they didn't seem to adequately convey her effect. The Indiana Fever's makeover started as soon as they selected her with the first overall pick. After years of dwindling season ticket sales, waiting lists appeared out of nowhere. The team's supply chains were overloaded with merchandise orders. Requests for Fever Games media credentials rose by 400%. Tens of millions of dollars were anticipated to be the economic impact. By all accounts, Clark's debut campaign was remarkable. The record books were rewritten by her triple-doubles. Her long three-pointers from seemingly insurmountable distances became must-see TV. Commentators were stunned by the highlight reel assists she generated with her apparently superhuman court vision. More significantly, she infused women's basketball with a passion that went beyond the game. Fever games were attended by celebrities. Her performances were reported by non-sports media. She made appearances on podcasts, late-night TV, and talk shows. Beyond just being a basketball player, Caitlyn Clark became a cultural phenomenon.